Well, hello, friends. Welcome to a show we like to call Afterburner, where normally Kent Wilson is invited in and gets to talk about a miserable Flames performance. Well, the joke's on you, Kent. They actually played well tonight. A Battle of Alberta, a party at Greta, and I don't know, more confusion, Kent, surrounding what the Calgary Flames actually are. This is an incredible 10 days where we've seen them lose to San Jose, get throttled by the Red Wings, and then reel off 3 wins in a row against Cup contenders. I'm out of words.
Yeah, who knows? But let's enjoy the win, whatever happens, right?
Yeah, it was a fun one. You had noted you've had some dogs on Afterburner here early in your Afterburner career, but this was a fun one right out of the gate. A minute 22 in, Nazem Kadri deflects a Walker Duehr pass in, and we were off to the races. And it was funny. We were in Jasper doing a pond hockey tournament for the last Battle of Alberta, which I believe was the last Danville game he played. Crazy.
Yeah.
And that one was a little more tepid and not a lot of emotion. This one got feisty real quick. And I think Pospisil's first ever Battle of Alberta might not have been coincidental. Evander Kane was all over the penalty sheet as things got out of hand. Rasmus Anderson seemed to be public enemy number 1 for a while. This was a good game.
I mean, Jonathan Huberdeau was getting into it. So, yeah, everyone. I mean, everyone on the roster on both sides were blood was a little high, which is good.
Fighting majors, embellishment penalties, roughing penalties, slashing, holding, misconduct. This is a Don Cherry special. It was a Battle of Alberta for the ages, and the Flames victorious 6-3. Now 3 games over 500. What will you remember in 3 days about this game, Kent? What's going to stand out for you?
A lot. I mean, yeah, lots to talk about. Hanifin had obviously one of his best games of the year. I thought the Flames actually had one of their best games of the year. But I was also struck with how sloppy the Edmonton Oilers were, especially in their own zone. Yeah, especially early. But I mean, yeah, just in their own zone, around their own blue line, zone exits, extremely just raw. So I can't imagine the coaching staff is going to be happy after that one.
Yeah, so the Kadri goal, it's a nice play, and almost immediately after, it's Mackenzie Weegar right up the middle down Main Street, wide open. It didn't make it 2-0, but Marty Pospisil did make it 2-0 soon after that, and then Hanifin's first of 2. It was a comedy of errors for the Oilers in their own zone, and if you were a decision maker of the Oilers watching this game, you could probably be convinced to go add one more defenseman. And I think as good as Stuart Skinner was for that 16-game run, where I think he won 11 of them, he's had now, I think, 6-7 starts in a row where it's been 3 or more in each of them.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that he isn't a good goalie. What I am suggesting is for the heater that he was on, he's now in the cooler. And I don't know if that changes their approach on net minding. Every goalie, when they're giving you 930, looks great, but if you get this kind of goaltending in the playoffs, I don't care if you have McDavid and Draisaitl. It might not go well.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Flames when they had Elliott. Remember?
Yes.
And I think they won 10 in a row or something that year, didn't they? And he went on
their bacon.
He went on a heater.
Yeah.
It saved their bacon. They got in the first round, and then he was awful. They lost.
I still recall the stain that's in the crease at that one end from the shot from the hash marks on the wall, and it was like, you had a backup. You didn't have the balls to play. You may as well not have a backup because that's what backups are for. He was so not right in that series against Anaheim, and it was over.
Yeah, that got ugly. And yeah, for the Oilers, I'd be a little nervous if I was them. I'd still, they do have superstar power.
Yep.
They've got a lot of great players, but yeah, that was pretty ugly. They haven't been great since they reeled off 16, right? So
correct. The All-Star break came at the wrong time, Ken. That's what it was. I don't know if you heard that. They had all the mo, everything was great, and then somebody's put something in that margarita at the pool in Cabo, and they're not the same. Or maybe it was Toronto because they had a lot of All-Stars.
That's right. It's the All-Star break's fault. Yeah,
that's right. But they lose in Vegas coming out of that break. And one of the things that to me, I enjoy giving the Oilers a tough time anytime I have the opportunity to do so. They had been a very, very airtight defensive environment for goalies to play in for a while there. They just haven't been in February, which is odd because they went from miserable in their own zone to start under Jay Woodcroft, and then Chris Knobloch comes in. And you're like, oh, okay, for whatever reason, whether it's the coaching change or just the blank sheet for everyone or whatever, like they're just now defending and not allowing a lot. And Skinner and, a number 3, Calvin Pickard, not having to do much. And now they're back to like, well, yeah, their goalies are going to have to make some saves. It's been a roller coaster for them. I feel like I was saying it at the bar tonight to somebody. We were at Greta that they're the anti-Kings. The Kings were hot out of the gate and then hit a huge skid, and now look like they're kind of back. They'd reeled off 4 in a row before a loss a couple nights ago. It's as much as the Flames seasons had a lot of this. I mean, the Oilers, that's not dissimilar. Just big, long stretches. Very bad for a long time. Very good for a month plus, and now quite mediocre since then.
A lot of it at the start of the year felt more like goaltending to me than defense. There was, some issues in the defense, but that was just horrendous net minding for the first month or two for them.
It was.
Tonight, watching them, that was bad defense. That was really lackluster. It really looked like they did not take the opponent seriously going into the game at all, right? And they started to reel it back in the second period, but it dug such a deep hole, right?
And the thing that I think about is like, the Flames can't dictate how other people play, in the sense that, like, if another team's going to take you lightly or they're going to bring their best game, you can't control that. I think when they went into Boston out of the All-Star break, Boston took them for granted. I think Boston gave them a much better effort at the Saddledome this week.
Yeah.
But the Oilers, certainly that's not their best. We know that. We can read the Stanley Cup odds at Betway where they're favored to win the tournament. And no, that wasn't their best effort. And you're right. It was too sloppy defensively. And on Skinner's best night, he's making more of those stops. There's a few that beat him from a bit of distance. But hey, if you're the Calgary Flames, that's a feel good.
They play great.
After you lose to the Sharks and the Red Wings, it's like, trade them all, sell everything, like screw these guys. You can see that sort of sentiment building a bit with the fan base because they had the 4-game winning streak. And you're like, how do you piss this away? What are you doing? And then sure enough, just as no one saw, wins against Winnipeg, Boston, and now Edmonton. It's quite something.
Yeah, I hope nobody's betting on them because it's pretty frustrating.
I had a policy with our NFL bets on the main show where if I was convinced I had to make the pick, I'd go the other way. And it actually saved my bacon this year. It really turned my betting around. So just go opposite George. Yeah, opposite George. That's the move. Let's get to our Betway highlight of the game for Betway. We mentioned the odds. Odds are you didn't have a Dryden Hunt goal on your bingo card.
Yeah.
Radim Zahorna for right? Dryden Hunt 1-for-1 trade went down, over a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you're going to get your first in a long time. It's a nice highlight to have, right?
Well, and it's funny because Kuzmenko has not been an undeniable force of late, and he sort of stepped up and took a bunch of those minutes a few games ago. And now tonight, Pelche had the opportunity to play on that top line. But again, Dryden Hunt found his way there. And I'm not suggesting Dryden Hunt's a top liner. We know he's not. He's a 13th, 14th forward. That's what he was in New York with the Rangers a few years ago. That's what he's going to be here. But he's he's doing the best Dryden Hunt he can do. And that's a big spot for a big goal. Was just saying it. 3-2 is not going to hold up. Like you can't be up 1 with the amount of puck that they've had. And, the Oilers had a bunch of pressure early in that second period. Like, you got to get one more. If they're down 1 going into recess, it just wouldn't have felt comfortable. We've seen the Oilers erase deficits with such ease with that offense. That turns out to be a monster goal and the game-winning goal at that for Dryden Hunt as well.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the Oilers were going to start taking the game over at that point. And then with that goal, it kind of really deflated them and put the Flames back ahead for a while. But yeah, Edmonton's getting all that momentum and then let all the air out of the tires.
They've had a lot of guys roll through that fourth line this year. And it's funny because last year you could pretty much set it and forget it with Lucic, Lewis, and one of the Richies at one point.
Right.
It's been refreshing, and it's I think been something the organization probably had a lot of people last year behind closed doors saying, like, we got some kids that can play. It's a shame we're not seeing them. And Matt Phillips was one of the victims of that last year. They really didn't know what he was at the time. They had to make a decision on his future. But I mean, you don't think Daryl Sutter would have loved Marty Pospisil the way he's playing right now? And I know it's a year ago, and I know there's injury stuff. Like, you don't think he could have used a Connor Zary points, and maybe the seasoning wasn't there yet. But even a guy like Hunt and Kevin Rooney got buried by Daryl early last year. Like, they've got more depth than we would have given them credit for by a considerable margin in the forward ranks. If you and I were going to sit down in August and talk about it this past summer.
Well, it's always been my contention. That's what you should be doing with a fourth line, not just stacking it with reputational veterans who are past their best before date. They don't have much upside. The fourth line should be where you should experiment a little bit with some of your best, young players in the AHL, because there's only upside there. If they prove to be replacement level or worse, then it doesn't matter, because that's what the fourth line's for, right?
Yeah, and that's what it was with Klapka. It's like you gave him a couple, and it doesn't. Nothing yet. Go back to the A, and Ruzicka wasn't working out. Well, put him on waivers. Dubé got taken away from them, and to be fair, you'd hoped he wasn't a fourth liner. He played his way down there, and then unfortunately, AJ Greer gets knocked out by an injury. But like that's a whole fourth line they've replaced, and it's frankly been better than that old fourth line. It's quite something. Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll see if Hunt hangs around. And again, he wasn't really a fourth liner tonight. You got up with the big guys a fair amount with Sharon Govich and Huberdeau. He supplies your Betway highlight of the night. Betway 19+, Ontario only. Bet the responsible way with Betway. Okay. Lots of big picture stuff to talk about. The deadline is on the 8th of March. It is the 24th of February. February is a weird month, Kent, with different numbers of days in it. Wild, I know. Let's say there's 5 more days in February, 4 if we start tomorrow, because today's pretty much done. And then we got 12 days till the deadline.
That's right.
Have the waters been muckied, sullied? Is this now, are we looking at one of those beers you can't even see through? Is it turned into an Origin hazy IPA? Is that what we're looking at? Is this a more difficult pitcher for Craig Conroy and company to navigate? We will come back, address that, and more thoughts and highlights from a 6-3 victory for the Calgary Flames over the Edmonton Oilers, and a reaction from Greta Bar, where they're still hooting and hollering, Kent. We'll have some visuals from that as well. 2 minutes. We're right back here on Afterburner.
We are well into the winter months now, and you can feel it, can't you? That urge to get away. Maybe some beach time to warm up those bones of yours. Maybe a hockey, sports kind of road trip. Well, when you pack your bags, make sure you don't forget Alberta Blue Cross. There's only one thing better than sharing memories, and that's making new ones. Alberta Blue Cross Travel Insurance protects your memories and more, wherever travel takes you. Visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information. Alberta Blue Cross, celebrating life's memorable moments inspired by hockey.
Hey guys, it's Pinder, chatting about Charm Diamond Centers. Did you know that Charm's been Canadian owned and operated since 1972? And there's over 85 locations coast to coast to coast with Charm and their sister brands. Get this now. You want to get something custom made? How about custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks? That's unreal. That is the Charm Masterpiece program, and they've got unbeatable pricing policies as well. Whether it's mined diamonds or Canadian lab-grown diamonds, check them out. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. That's charmdiamondcenters.com.
All right, gang, listen up. It's time to learn the pro pose. Coach?
Bend and snap.
Beautiful form. Nice arm extension. Facial expression, could use some work. All right, let's see it. The pro pose. What's that guy doing?
I think that's the bend and snap.
That's a whole different deal. Charm, home of the pro pose. Oh!
Wendy's is letting you win real food with your fantasy teams this year and Daily Face-Off. For those of you who smoked the competition, Wendy's is rewarding you with weekly prizes that'll have you winning despite your lack of team-building skills. Download the Wendy's app and score yourself 150 bonus reward points on your first order. Grab a sweet victory from the mouth-watering jaws of defeat, along with some fresh, never-frozen beef. Sign up to play Daily Face-Off to win weekly prizes like the spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's and the Wendy's app.
And now back to Afterburner. All right, 6-3, and you had noted it, Kent. Are things getting a little more confusing for Craig Conroy, or is the path as clear as ever? I will sell both sides of the coin here. Noah Hannafin is having a career year and might not be worth more ever than he is after a 2-goal game tonight, where I don't believe Connor McDavid scored. Okay, feathering anyone's cap when that is achieved. The other side would be, look at this team, how close they are to a wild card. If you erase that miserable 10-game start, this is a playoff team. Don't sell these pieces, Kent. Is this becoming more of a conversation, or is it still clear as ever that they should be selling in your mind?
It's clear to me that they should be selling. One, because when I checked the playoff chances prior to this game, I think they're at 13% to make the first round, which is not very good. The second one is just the long-term thing. You can't, as an organization, lose guys like Hannafin and Tanev to free agency in the summer because you took, a less than 1 in 5 chance to make the playoffs.
Sure.
The position that this org is in, it can't be losing any more guys to free agency like that. They're entering a transitional phase pretty clearly, so they have to lean into that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it is funny because fans love seeing a hardworking team, and wins are what everyone likes sports for. They're fun. But everyone also understands, like, okay, this team doesn't have a lot of young stars. There's some nice pieces there, but there isn't a number one center as of yet. There isn't a young defenseman to take the reins in the next 2 to 3 years. The prospect cupboards aren't empty, but there are not stars on their way so much as good middle of the roster type secondary pieces. So I think a lot of this fan base is really keen to see high picks and assets acquired for veterans. But you start getting, that's 3 points back of a playoff spot. The runway's not that long. There's now 4 games until the deadline. This, I do wonder. I wonder about, because we know where the owner's preference has been in the past. Playoff revenue, that's the trump card.
I mean, what they should try to do is sell and then try to make the playoffs anyways. That's if you keep going. They've already traded Zadorov and Elias Lindholm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're still charging for the playoffs. I don't, it'll make it even slightly less likely that they'll do it if they get rid of Tanev and Hannafin. But it's irresponsible, frankly, from the general manager to not trade those pieces at this point, especially with, Hannafin's stock has to be going up every game like this. And
you've gotten this far without Chris Tanev suffering a significant injury this year. It feels like somehow Connie has almost completely threaded the needle here. That felt ominous at times. We've seen him down the tunnel a dozen times. Noah Hannafin, congrats, sir. You've made yourself a lot of money. You've turned down some here, but that's fine. You now get to choose where you want to play. And you have not been, crumbling under the weight of a UFA season. He's been very, very good, Kent, and I think better than I even thought potentially he could be. I still know he's not a 1, but I think he's a pretty firm number 2 on most rosters now, and I would have said maybe a 3 a year or 2 ago. I just think the offensive instincts they've never really been there, but he's showing better awareness in the ozone in my mind. And
all the tools to do more in the ozone, and he just doesn't really do it. At least he didn't do it consistently. So you're seeing a lot more of him sneaking in the back door there, cutting in when there's an opportunity late, and he's taking advantage, right?
I have 8-year-old boys, and someone in the comments just noted that I did say a firm number 2. So if that's your style of comedy, I'm sorry, and you're welcome at the same time. It can't, on most shows you would not double back to make note of that, but here on the Barn Burner Afterburner,
we can do whatever we want, right?
This is what we do. There's a lot of stupid and dumb mixed in with the occasional hockey opinion. Hannafin was great. He is my DoorDash hungry for more. If you haven't downloaded the DoorDash app, now's the time to do it, because you're going to get 25% off your first order over $15 and no delivery charges. That's with the promo code Nation25. If you don't know what DoorDash is, my goodness, pretty simple. Do you like restaurant food? Do you like groceries? Do you need something from a pharmacy? Would you like maybe a card and some flowers? Any of these issues can be solved by our good friends at DoorDash. What you want, from where you want, when you want it, delivered to your door. That's DoorDash. 25% off your first order with the promo code Nation25. For more details, check out the website. Don't have it, and you just keep doing this, bud. Keep doing this. There's 4 games left. Four. What's
Keep
a
scoring, don't get injured, right?
Yeah. Well, and you know what? He's been so durable. I think worrying about the sky falling and worrying about worst case scenarios, that's you can spend your whole life doing that. It really doesn't accomplish much. The Chris Tanev thing is a tangible risk because we see how many times he puts his body in the line. Hannaford's hardly missed. Hanifin might not miss more than 2 games a year on average with this team. He's been sensational durability wise, right from the moment he skated in the league from, I believe, Michigan or Michigan State. Like he's been a minute munching, durable. Every night there he is, 22 to 25 minutes guy. 4 games left. What's a reasonable expectation on a return for him?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's got to be a first round pick involved, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it necessarily has to be the most valuable piece in that deal either. Like I look at the Lindholm deal as a template, and I don't know that it should be much different than that. I think a player coming back doesn't have to happen, but it kind of makes the deal easier because you're probably going to need to help balance some money. And Connie can say, look, we cashed in on this expiring asset, but look, I found us a number 4 or 5 defenseman that can, play until he's a free agent in the summer, whatever the case may be. You can still sort of try to walk that tight wire of make the playoffs and sell these assets that are set to expire. If you told me that a Lindholm type deal was out there, I'd say, that'd be very nice.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that return, especially with the season that Lindholm was having. He was having the opposite of the Hanifin career year, right? So I think it's a reasonable expectation.
So first, a really good prospect, maybe some conditional picks we could mix in and give us your 2024 version of Jyrki Jokipaka, and we'll call it a deal. It does feel like Chris Russell plus. That's sort of the template. And I think
get that done.
Craig Conroy seems to be holding out for a first rounder with Tanev, whether someone decides to cross that, arbitrary line of pick 33 to 32. We'll see, but it's an interesting position the GM finds himself in. He's got the top 2 defensemen on the market, both rentals, and he's not at the mercy of anyone else. They are the big dominoes. Sean Monahan did not get traded before Elias Lindholm. It was immediately after. These are market-setting deals that Connie is sitting on. He's got 2 in his hand.
It definitely feels like the market's waiting for that shoe to drop right before anything else happens. And
well,
it does
to be
feel
fair,
like
if you're Dallas, it's like you need a D probably. Yeah, you could get a Joel Edmondson later, but shit, I'd rather have a Hanifin or a Tanev. So until those guys are off the market, the Edmondson deal doesn't happen. Use another defenseman's name for an example, but I think you get the point, right?
Mm-hmm. It almost feels like you could, if you're trading out east, you can trade it to one of those players or teams that have been in the mix, and then one of those other teams that doesn't get them, trying to get the other guy.
The other guy. Yeah, it's you got the best left-handed shot defenseman on the market and the best righty as well. It's a good spot for Craig Conroy to be in. And to be fair, I think there was reason for trepidation around a new GM because you haven't seen him make moves. But now, after watching the Toffoli deal and seeing the Lindholm deal, I thought that the Zadorov return was reasonable. I think there's much less concern about a rookie GM bungling it so much as like there's some excitement about, geez, like these guys are playing well. They've got a really good, firm position in the market. They're not going to get bullied here. I think people are excited to see the return. And so as long as Noah Hanifin keeps doing these types of things, well, to be fair, I think teams know what Noah Hanifin is by this point. Was there anyone else that jumped out at you tonight where you're like, damn it, keep that going? That's unbelievable. Because many nights we struggle to find one, and other nights there's a bunch. Connor Zary, boom. Talk to me. Connor Zary, what do you see tonight? What do you love about the kid?
Well, even the last couple games where they weren't very good before going on this run, I liked the Pospisil and Zeri pairing anyway. Usually they were two of the better performance, but they just keep it going, right? And
Yeah.
especially Zeri, he's got. I mean, he got another 2 assists. He's making plays, right? And at
Yeah.
his age, I think he's the most pleasant surprise on the team this year.
I'd
Honestly.
agree.
And
And that's
there's a
with
couple of them.
Pospisil
There's
included.
Pospisil,
And if you want 895
Shillington
Markstrom
coming
last
back.
year, Shillington coming
Right,
back,
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But
Coleman's
yeah,
23 goals.
yeah,
Sharangovich.
that's true.
He still leads that list. He
thought-
does. You're right.
Zeri was going to be in the AHL all year at best, and I was just hoping that he would be one of the leading scorers there. But yeah, he's come up, and he is a legit NHLer for sure.
Early on, I remember doing an afterburner with Rhett, and I just said poise and creativity.
Yeah.
Those are rare things in this game, and rare for a player to have both of them. And it's really that combination sets you aside from most NHLers at the forward position.
Through the early going, the first couple weeks or even months, he was the reason to watch the team half the time when they were struggling, because he came up and you're right, he's making plays that some of the vets weren't making. It's like,
Yep.
this is
Buying time, not being pressured, like just really, really savvy player. It's been impressive to see. So we got him for Hungry for More, Noah Hannafin. If Dryden Hunt wants to keep doing this, that'd be great too. Not necessarily the scoring thing, but coming up, running into everything, providing some energy. He's been good at that.
Yeah.
I thought Walker Durr had a good start to the game. That assist is a big one that gets them flying out of the gates. He was completely MIA and played himself into healthy scratch territory in the first half of the year. I'm not saying he's back, but I do think with the assist tonight, he's earned a Walker Durr, which has been his first Walker Durr of the year, by the way.
That made that play.
Like
yeah, 70, well, it's good for
70
him.
something. Is that
That's
possible?
a nice
76, no, 71.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, that fourth line with Rooney and he, and then whatever else is rotating through, I guess, be it Hunt or whatever, it's been great. Like, feel like the fourth line for a while with AJ Greer looked really good. Sharangovich was on it at one point this year. It looked lost to the point where everyone disappeared off of it. Dubé gets non-rostered for his role for the pending case, obviously, that we'll expect to hear in the next 2 years. Ruzicka waivers, Greer hurt, and they just found another functional fourth line. All right, cool. And good on Walker for being a part of that. Pospisil, again, I can't not talk about him because there's just an energy and an edge to the game. And there's something about the way he plays the game that ups the ante and the investment emotionally and physically in a contest. And since Matthew Tkachuk left, I feel like it's kind of been missing. Yes, there's physical players. Sure, Kadri can, get under your skin a bit, but Pospisil really has brought something. And again, tonight, I thought he was integral in that. They missed him. That last Battle of Alberta was, I think, the game after he got hurt. Remember, they played Toronto and he took a run at Matthews, tripped over his skate, got hurt. I think he came back after the All-Star break and they didn't have him in the Edmonton game. And it was like one of the flatter Battle of Albertas we've seen. There just wasn't a lot going on.
He's not quite the same player, but it's a little reminiscent of Ferland to me when he came up. Sort of a mid-round pick, guy that had tools that everyone liked, but hadn't really settled into, he was sort of a good pro, but nobody knew what they had. And then goes to the NHL and is, whoa, what's happening here? Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That Ferland first round against Vancouver, I believe 2015,
fantastic.
Like that was supernova shit. It was incredible. Yeah. And yes, half those hits are charges that didn't get called, but welcome to the playoffs. And he was living rent-free between Kevin BX's ears. Like it was quite impressive. You could see him affecting the routes that defensemen were taking to retrieve pucks. It was like, wow, where was this? Because, those tools for Michael Ferland were always there, but it was like, he's going to throw one hit and you won't see it again. It's like, no, he's going to be a wrecking ball for a whole series, and it completely changed the complexion of the series. I do feel like it is a bit of a diet Ferland. Physical, skates well. Don't know that he's going to square up much with the concussion history. Don't think he has to. He's sort of mastered that test role.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay. that was your DoorDash Hungry for More. Lots of candidates, and why not after a win? How about Dan Vladar? We didn't really mention him.
Good
They
game.
didn't need him a lot
Very
early, but in
solid.
the second period, the Oilers, that was a heck of a push they had. And his last game against the Oilers, at the end of January, he was sensational. The an empty netter and a 3 deflection one. What was it? Body, tip of glove, post in. Those are the like 1 goal beat him that night.
I've actually liked Vladar a lot more the last couple times I've seen him. He, up until, especially his first little while in the organization, he'd have nights where it's like, oh, great save, stinker. Like there would be that
one a game,
that one groaner a game where it's just like, if you could just get rid of that. So the last couple of appearances, he hasn't really done that. He's been very solid, very calm. So it's nice to see.
What did you make of the contact when was it Draisaitl went flying by and clipped him in the helmet? And obviously he had some help getting there with the Flames defenseman pushing him in there.
Yeah, I think he embellished it a little bit, but that was a legit
You
usually
got
they
walled by
blow
a big
the
guy.
whistle for that at least. Right?
Yeah,
there was that.
I think he was
play,
expecting one because he sold it and lay there for a bit, and then he's like, "Oh, they're gonna let this go. I better get back into my crease." And then next thing you know, Zink. Back in the
that
game.
bizarre play back in New Jersey this year where their goalie comes out to like the blue line and body checks, I think it's Kadri, and then they blow the whistle and the Flames.
Where's the whistle?
What?
That's right. That was at the late stages. It was a 1-goal game. That could have mattered.
Yeah.
Was that Akira Schmid? I think it was Vanacek.
It was Vanacek, yeah.
Wild. Let's do the road ahead. We do that for Village Honda. If you're into pre-owned vehicles or new in-stock inventory, you can head up to the Northwest Auto Mall or go to villagehonda.com, where all your automotive adventures do begin. New car pricing is MSRP, and pre-owned units, almost 100. How about that? Here's a 3-game homestand. It really, when you look at it big picture, Ken, it's a 7-game homestand with a little date in Edmonton in the middle. They had 4 in a row at home. Tonight in Edmonton, now back for 3 in a row. It's the LA Kings on Tuesday, a big break as we roll the red carpet out around Calgary bars, restaurants, and establishments for Mika Kiprasov's return. That is a Saturday affair with the Pittsburgh Penguins next weekend, and then the homestand ends with Seattle on Monday. Been a lot of home hockey of late, and I feel like it's been the mixed bag. They're no good at home, and then they're very good at home against Winnipeg and Boston. I think they'll be fired up for the Kings on Tuesday. Another good opponent coming in.
I think the Kings will be fired up too because they're kind of battling for their playoff life a little bit here. Did they win tonight?
They reeled off 4 in a row before they lost a couple
did.
nights ago, and they have the late game tonight against the Ducks. I have not checked in to see how that was going.
3-2 shootout. They got 50 shots on goal.
Did they win or lose in the shootout?
They won.
Okay, so they've won 5 of 6 then. That's not bad. They rallied back in Pittsburgh on Yager night, and they also rallied against Boston on that same road trip. It's the Kings up against the wall there, and they've looked a lot better. Byfield, the goal of the year candidate this week too.
That was crazy.
They're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming. So it's the Kings, the Penguins, and the Kraken, a 3-game homestand that starts on Tuesday and will wrap the following Monday. That your road ahead for Village Honda in the Northwest Auto Mall and at villagehonda.com. We were at Greta. I feel like we buried the lead. Jack, do you have any footage of people just having an absolute blast at Greta? Let's just do that, shall we? There we got the balloons. This looks like the Full House, Kent. I don't. Somebody's got a megaphone with just siren blaring. There's the empty netter from Blake Coleman. Bella's having a good time in the corner. Well done. Good work. Thanks to everyone that came out for Greta, and we raised a bunch of dough for Closer to Home, the charity that was the benefactor of tonight's event. How much FOMO did you have there, Kent? Or did you just see crowds and noise and sticky shoes? What do you...
Yeah, man, I'm old. I'm happy to watch games on my own TV at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'll just hang with the dog. You can show me those 30-second videos instead.
Yeah, I can just go to my own fridge for a beer.
It was a great
That
time.
looks like a good time for sure.
It was a promised shot from Casey and all the staff at Greta. If the Flames score, you're all getting a shot of Pink Whitney. It happened right away. They couldn't start pouring the shot glasses
right out of the
quick
gate.
enough. 3-0, lots of high fives. Then you get the nerves of that early rally from the Oilers. It's a 1-goal game. Then the Hunt goal, and fights for sure. Scrapping between Janmark and Blake Coleman.
Yeah. Didn't Coleman get into 2 tonight?
I think Uyghur got credit for the other one. But yes, 2 fights. Decision, and he didn't do too bad either for a guy that you wouldn't expect to be comfy in that environment. But that's what this is about. This reminds me of some of the great Battle of Alberta flyweight matchups, I think, or at least the We're Not Fighters fights. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Sean Monahan. You remember that?
Yeah, that was a good one.
I think that was the same game we had Talbot and Smith at center ice. If not, it was another great Calgary fight. And then also, way back in the day, Craig Conroy, Sam Gagne, who's still collecting rent money there in Edmonton.
Who won that one?
I think Connie did well, but I can't remember. I think Nugent-Hopkins hung in with Monty pretty good. Mike Smith certainly fed Cam Talbot his lunch. I don't remember the Connie one well, and I'm going to feel guilty about it because everyone else seems to remember.
That is a while ago, to be fair.
It is a while ago. Do you know how many brain cells I've killed since then? Jeez, people, come on. We'll have your questions and comments, and also a thought about what lies ahead. There was no Markstrom tonight, and it didn't sewer their playoff probabilities on the day. Okay. Yeah. Another break. We'll be right back with your thoughts. It is the afterthoughts on Afterburner coming up next.
Greta, it's our home away from home for Afterburner. We'll be there for live watch parties throughout the season. Should be your spot regardless. Before, during, and after the game, grab a cocktail, something from the menu, let the games begin, or maybe you get into the game yourself. Over 50 arcade games from vintage to state-of-the-art. Load up some credits on that Greta game card of yours and get at it. Greta Calgary, located at 213 10th Avenue Southwest. Check them out online, gretabar.com.
You know the Grey Eagle Resort and Casino is the go-to place to watch Flames and other televised sports action, but St. Patrick's Day is coming, and get ready for a St. Patrick's extravaganza like no other. Join us on March 17th for a day filled with fun and festivities. Kick off the celebrations with our exciting slot tournament. Registration at 2, tournament begins at 3. You can test your luck and win amazing prizes. Don't miss their Irish-themed lunch buffet from 11 until 2:30 and their Irish-themed dinner buffet from 5 until 10 p.m. Then get ready to dance and sing along to live music from 8 till midnight. The talented Morrissey's Private Stock is all lined up to keep the party going all night long. And of course, what's St. Patrick's Day without some green beer? Raise a glass and toast to the luck of the Irish. Mark your calendars and join us for a day filled with Irish charm and entertainment. See you on March 17th at the Grey Eagle. If you're thinking of buying or selling your home in the Calgary area, there's one guy you've got to talk to. That's Derek Newman of the Derek Newman Real Estate Group with CIR Realty. Buying or selling doesn't really matter. Derek does it all. He's a volunteer in the community, active in sports around the city, whether it's golf, curling, huge Flames fan. So talking sports or talking about the real estate market, definitely give him a shout. He's approachable, trustworthy, and hardworking. Also, Derek's got a pretty vast network. He's even got access to some homes often that aren't even on the market yet. And you can ask him about his complimentary home staging consultation as well. Buying or selling, call him or text him right now at 403-619-6661. Derek will make it easy for you. Get Derek and his network to work for you. That's Derek Newman. Email him at dnewman@cirrealty.ca. More post-game reaction right here. We're back on Afterburner. 6-3 your final. Flames finally get a win over the Edmonton Oilers. It was a 0-2 start. The outdoor game with the bad costume decision from Nazem Kadri continues to look like rock bottom on the season for the Flames as things got better after, and certainly were pretty miserable from the game 2 of the season right to that mark. They lost at home in a nail-biter that, again, saw the triple deflection stand as the winner. From behind the goal line, a puck went off a leg, the tip of a glove, a post, and in. And tonight, a resounding victory for the Calgary Flames in Edmonton, one remains, I believe, down the stretch. Kent here in Calgary. So there's one more home game to circle.
That'll be good.
Let's get to comments and questions from the YouTubes, the Facebooks, anywhere else that you can comment. Jack will fire it in. Hey, this is from Reese. Are they going to get answered? Like, I'm going to ask a question, but are they going to get answered? Reese, yes, they are. Thanks for your question.
We'll try.
Appreciate all the questions that are submitted here on Afterburner. Next question. Okay. Should Conroy pull Hanny and Tanev aside and say, bleep it? Let's go for one hell of a final run and make a beauty of a story. And we can save the trades till after the season if that's what we want. They're free agents this summer. You're going to trade for what?
Rights
like a
for the
7th rounder for negotiating rights? No.
Yeah. No.
I do think that it's a feel-good story, but it feels less
romantic.
good if you get pumped in 4 by Colorado, right?
Or if you don't make playoffs.
I think Daryl famously called one of the, squeaking into being a wild card one particular year was a waste of jet fuel in 8 days.
That's right. Yeah.
Which it turned out to be that year as well. Next question. What do we got here? Let's fire away. And yeah, I mean, we already sort of talked about that. There is a temptation to say, damn it, they might be good enough to get in, but you've talked about it. The long-term course is a very, very, if you only think short-term every year, you're never going to be a perennial contender. Yeah.
No.
Do we think a tandem of Wolf and Vladar will be competitive? That coming from Lucas. I think that's a great question, Lucas. I don't think anyone knows the answer.
No.
If you knew that would be a really good tandem, perhaps you've already moved on from Jacob Markstrom. Perhaps you're ready to now. You're just waiting for the right offer. But it's a very, very odd resume that Dan Vladar's built. He's looked very good at times. He's looked very mediocre at times. There was that penchant for the soft goal every game. That said, he also battles really hard when he falls behind early and can be spectacular in the same game that he looks very mediocre. I think it's probably a very tough goaltender to feel like you've got a solid book on what he'd look like as a starter because he's never really had that run. Even in a platoon, he's never really been given much of that a chance here in Calgary because Daryl wasn't really into it. And frankly, he hasn't been nearly as good as Markstrom this year. And as for what Wolf is, 6 games. We don't know.
Yeah.
We know he's an elite AHL goalie. That's what we know.
Yeah, one of the reasons to do a transitional period like they're going to go into here, besides getting more future assets, is starting to answer those questions. Because you have you need to find out what Dustin Wolf is.
Yes.
And when you're not in a position to, we got to squeak into the 8th spot, and we can't afford to let the kid in, and they play that game a lot year after year, but they should be entering a phase now where there's like, let's try this, because we're not going to be contenders for another few years at the very least, right? So let's see what we have here, and if it works out, then you find out that Wolf's a legit starting goalie. I mean, that's fantastic, but you're not going to know until you do it.
Yeah, and maybe the flip's true. Like, geez, like Dan Vladar is settled in. I mean, the position is so nuts that like you really can't feel like you absolutely, without a question, know what a guy is, because you see Tim Thomas happen, and you see Johan Hedberg happen, and you see the Hamburglar happen, and you see highly touted first round guys turn out to be nothing. Like, it is so incredibly volatile. Markstrom cleared waivers.
Wasn't a starter until he was like 20.
Markstrom cleared waivers in Vancouver. Cleared waivers. Anyone could have had him for free. No one wanted him. That's how rock bottom Markstrom got. And now, he's obviously great, but there's 2 things. One is you have to preach patience here. Even if Dustin was a surefire Hall of Famer, which, my God, wouldn't that be like an unbelievable thing for any organization to have? It might take him 3, 2, 4 years to figure this league out. How did Carey Price look early in his career? They had Jarro Halak starting in net ahead of him in playoffs some years.
Yep.
Like, it takes a while. Like, UC Saros is always the comp we get for Dustin Wolf because there's not a lot of guys that are 6 feet tall. How many years did he back up Pekne as a really good goalie? And now he's finally a 1.
Yeah.
Like if anyone's just saying, oh, you got Dustin Wolf, like put him in, like, he's going to look like Mika, right? Like he's just going to come in and be the best goalie in the league for a decade. No,
That'd be nice, but yeah.
right?
But you don't expect, kids coming into the league. That'd be like expecting someone to come in and be the number one center, like immediately.
Sure.
And to score 100 points, some guys do that, but they're extremely rare.
Yeah. And look, if you draft a Bedard or a McDavid, sure. But even the goalies that you take in the top 15 take years to get close to the NHL. Like we're talking like Askarov and Kosa and Edvinsson, like all these highly touted goalies. It's like Spencer Knight went in the same draft class as Dustin Wolf in the top 15.
That's right.
And like, what is he? We
playing.
still don't have a clue. No idea. And he's been in the league at tons of reps, in and out of some player assistant stuff, but still, like it's goalies, man. It is so tough. And to revisit the Markstrom thing really quick, a guy at Greta tonight said, "Why in the world? You guys must be crazy. Why do you want to trade Markstrom?" And I said, "Well, geez, like how good's Markstrom been this year?" He said, "It's been great." I said, "I agree. He's been probably like a top 3 goalie in the league, maybe the best guy by some measures." And where are they? So with that goaltending, what are you? Oh, you're almost good enough to make the playoffs. And
papering over issues. It's not.
Yeah, like and so if you're content to finish 8th to 11th in the West, and that's the name of the game, you can't get rid of Markstrom. But that's not what anyone's end game is. And you have to weigh the value of like, okay, he keeps us competitive with all the reasons you want to keep Markstrom are the same reasons another GM should want to give you a lot for him. He's been very good and can be a difference maker. Imagine if you had New Jersey's forwards playing in front of him instead of these forwards, right? And he's 34. He's got 3 playoff runs, 2 more seasons after this playoffs, 2 more years. Is that a window where the Flames are going to be competing for a Stanley Cup?
Nope. You'd have to become Hasek, right?
Yeah. And it just, I get why you look so hard and long for decades sometimes trying to find a goalie. And they're like, we finally got one. It's like, yeah, but if I asked you what you thought of him last year, you wouldn't have said you had a goalie.
Well, that's the other thing. There's no guarantee that he's going to be a top 3 goalie again.
No, ever.
Right.
There's no guarantee.
Especially as he gets into 35, 36 years old, right? Sometimes that you hit that cliff and it's done. So, or
it's this, which is what he's been here. First year, okay. Yeah. Second year, great. Third year, okay. This year, great. Next year, I don't know. I'm not saying it has to be a bad year. I'm just saying how you felt about him the offseason before the season is the opposite of what you got from him. Basically 4 years in a row. If you felt good about him, he had a bad year. If you felt bad about him, he's had a good year.
Most likely this will be his peak value.
I agree with that.
This contract, right? So
I agree.
And you have to test the market for him.
Yeah. And I'll say this, it doesn't have to be ahead of the deadline, but ahead of the draft, I think there'll be also a great opportunity to get huge value for him because there's no free agent goalies of any sort of number one. Really. I mean, if you think 36-year-old Cam Talbot can be a number 1 next year, okay. But I think that's probably, again, a little of the volatility we're looking at. Kakkonen, okay. Like there just isn't a sterling class of goalies. So there'll be a lot of demand if he's available through trade and cap goes up, contracts roll off the books. A few teams will have their heart broken by their own netminders in the playoffs this year. You could even build the case he might have more value in June than he does here today in late Feb.
Yeah, it'll depend on the desperation level of the teams in question. But the other question is, what does a player want? Because I would think if I was Markstrom, I'd want to go somewhere where I have a chance to win, before I'm 36, 37 years old, right? So
and if I asked you if you thought he was very, very competitive or not very competitive, how would you classify?
Clearly very competitive, obviously,
I think winning's probably top of the list. Winning's the reason he signed in Calgary.
That's right.
Right? I mean, I don't think it's the delicious herring he finds here. Now, I'm sure there's, relationships and Tanev ends up surfacing here and he knows Elias Lindholm, blah, blah, blah. But Anyway, long-winded answer about a Vladar Wolf tandem that turned into a referendum on Markstrom. Good work, Ryan and Kent. I'll take the fall for that, by the way. What else have we got for questions? If Hanifin did decide to re-sign, would you, or is trade value too high? Well, so there's two unknowns there. The would you is at what price? Because I know it's going to be 8 years, but what's the number? I really balked pretty hard at the 60 million he turned down, which is 7.5. I would take that back. Having watched this season, I think 7.5 is more reasonable. In the fall, I felt that was a bit of a tough pill to swallow, given that Devin Taves just signed for 7.25. Devon, whatever. But I'm less scared by that number. But if you're Noah Hanifin's agent, why wouldn't you be asked for more than that now, given the season he's had? He just hit career highs in goals at 11 tonight. And then the other thing you're measuring against is, what you could get in trade. Well, we don't know what that is either. So you're comparing a mystery contract to a mystery trade item. I think that's Connie's job. He's the only one that sees both sides of that, what the number is and what the trade offers are.
If I was the GM, I wouldn't do it. It's not about the player for me, because you said, he's playing really well. It's a career season. I just don't think a more expensive Hanifin through the next 7 or 8 years does anything for this team. We were just saying, like, a really good Markstrom makes this a bubble team.
What?
A really good Hanifin on this roster, it's still a bubble team. Now you're paying him $3 or $4 million more than he's making now next year.
Yeah.
Doesn't really get you anywhere. But if you can get a bunch of prospects and picks, like, the goal for me, if I'm Conroy over the next 3 years, is to find the next core of this team.
Yeah, I agree.
And
whether that's a trade with a prospect coming back or a first or second that hits, that's likely how you get those guys, right?
Yeah. You're only getting reasonably better by doing that. Keeping Hanifin doesn't make this roster any better. It doesn't make it worse, but you need to get a lot better if you want to be a contender, and it doesn't get you there.
Agreed. Yeah, if you just handed out extensions to everyone here, all you've done is lock up a team that isn't good enough to be in the playoffs through 60 games-ish at bigger dollars, and as they get older and are expected to
get worse.
That's not policy. That would be very sound, right? Next question. But I got Jago. How high is the ceiling on Connor Zary? It keeps getting higher for me. I'll tell you what I didn't think it was is this summer. I didn't think it was high. God, the creativity and poise is quite exceptional, and everyone around him looks good. I mean, it's to the point where I see him on the power play. I'm like, give it to him. Give it to him. That guy makes smart plays.
Yeah.
That guy makes smart plays. Like, stop giving it to the guys doing dumb shit that's predictable. Like, this guy will make a play. I have never been down on Connor Zary, but I don't know that I've ever been this up on Connor Zary.
I'd love to see him at center at some point, a sort of an extended run at center. He seems like the kind of guy, his puck distribution, he can be a guy who stirs a drink a little bit. Second line center maybe, which is a nice thing to have. I think
if they're going to try it, they want to give him an off season and a training camp and all the.
That'd be fair. Yeah, there's no rush
because it's just really tough. Rookie year, remember that's the other thing. It doesn't feel like a rookie when you watch him, but it is. Like, missed the first month.
Yeah, he's young. Yeah,
and you go look back, COVID stuff in his draft year, still COVID stuff his year after D+1, F+1. Major injuries first full AHL season, more injuries AHL season 2. Like, there's been a lot of missed time here. This is still a very young player. I've been thoroughly impressed.
Absolutely.
And yeah, maybe they give him a spin at center, but God, if it didn't work out and he just had to be a great playmaking winger that's good at both ends, that'd be great.
Not a bad thing. Yep.
Yeah. Next up, we have the old Geo Turbers Rock. What do you think of Knobloch pulling the goalie with 7+ minutes, also not pulling the goalie with 3 minutes left? Well, when there's 3 minutes left, was it 6-3? Like, essentially, what you're trying to do is say, okay, what's our probability of winning? Right. And what's our probability of scoring? And, like, where does it just make more sense to just pull it? Because if they get one with 7 minutes left and they're down 2, you put the goalie back in and they can do that. They've done that a lot. They've scored twice in the final 8 minutes of a game, a ton this year, if my memory, or maybe that's just scar tissue, but it feels that way. I have no problem with it. I like it. I think 20 years ago, people's heads would be spinning, but we see it all the time now. Like, you use math. What's your win probability? And when it gets so low, well, we're down 3 with 8 to go. Like, what are the odds of 3 even strength goals? Low. Well,
Very
what if
low,
we find an extra man goal and get this house rocking? Okay, well, now we got a sniff. And then we get to 2 minutes left and we're only down 1. We'll pull them again.
Yeah, it's ballsy play, and you're right. It's all about doing the probability and the percentages, right? So at that point in the game, when you're down as much as they were, your chance of winning is very low. And if you give up another goal, it's just slightly lower than that. But
Yeah.
if you score another goal, it goes,
Way up.
drastically up. So it's worth it.
Yeah. So let's pretend some numbers there. Let's say you've got a 1 in 10 chance to win the game, down 3 with 7 minutes left. And that's probably way too high, but
That's
it is the
probably
order.
high.
So I'm going to give him a lot of credit for having Draisaitl, McDavid, and a bunch of third period goals this year. So let's just, for argument's sake, say it's 10%. If you allow the fourth, let's say it gets cut in half to 5%. If you score one, boy, it
Probably
feels like it
doubles.
more than doubles, because
Right.
that team, that building, 2 goals, that much time left. I like it. I think it's a smart play. Here's one. We'll just do this right while it's there. Hey, guys, do you think Tanev will re-sign here back in the summer? I mean, I think Chris Tanev likes it here. I think Chris Tanev also liked it in Vancouver. I think Chris Tanev is going to get traded to a contender, and it wouldn't surprise me if he liked it there as well. It would worry me if the Flames won a bidding war for Chris Tanev more than I'd be worried about the player, because you're buying the most risky years of his NHL career, given that he's already 33?
30. Yeah, 34 maybe.
34?
Yeah, I think
So now, if he wants to go around handing out, I like the coffee shops and Altador discounts, that's great. But if it's market
I wouldn't
rate,
do that if I was
not
him.
a move.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he wants to do the Geo, I'll come play for $850,000 for 2 years. Like, hell yeah,
Absolutely.
But if it's market
but
rate, you're
if I'm
talking
him, I'm
3 to
asking
5,
4 or 5. Yeah, exactly.
and terms probably 3 years. Like,
At
it's
least.
not the most reasonable offer that gets signed July 1 often. It's usually the worst assessment of the player's value by 32 GMs.
Right.
Who's going to overpay the most? Next question. How many wings did Pinder crush in a
Good
grid? I
question.
actually went with the shrimp tacos, and they were fantastic.
Nice.
And it was the nuggets that, I don't know if you're familiar with this. We had a fantasy football bet many years ago. Dean had a wagon, and he goaded me into a fantasy football bet where we were head to head, and the margin of victory, that number of points, would be the number of nuggets the loser had to eat.
Ooh. How'd
So
you do?
Greta, in the fall, I ate 42 nuggets and thought I was going to die. But look at me now, Kent. Still alive.
That's a success story right there.
You too could look like it.
I don't think I'll be doing that, no.
I went to the barbershop today, and they're like, finally getting rid of that. Hey, I'm like, no, actually, I'm just getting the beard
Not
trimmed.
at all.
What are you saying?
It's a signature now.
Shrimp tacos are sensational. It is. It's obnoxious and loud. Somehow it fits me, Kent. I don't get it. I don't. How?
No comment.
What else have we got, Jacko? What do we got? Injury update on AJ Greer.
I haven't heard anything.
Well, when he got hurt, it was the 6 to 8 weeker, I think, if I'm correct. Well, and look, maybe I shouldn't be guessing on timelines. I'm pulling that out off the top of my head. The timeline that was given was past the trade deadline. So you could still trade AJ Greer, but you're not going to get much, A, because he was claimed on waivers earlier this year and is probably a 13th forward on a contending team. And B, a team would have to be okay with him arriving injured, getting back into shape, and I guess rolling the dice a little bit that he can return to the form he was in prior. But he was a very good fourth liner for this team for 3 months, I want to say.
Yeah, I think I don't think he'll be traded, so it'll be see if he can come back before the year is over. That'll be
Yeah, if you got someone offered you a 6th rounder, would you take it for AJ Greer? Yeah, I would too.
Yep.
And if someone doesn't offer you 6, I'd be like, you know what, AJ, we love you here.
Keep him around.
How about a
sure.
1-year deal? And
There you go.
These kids that play on the fourth line, they've got a mentor on how to play it the right way. There was zero issue with what AJ Greer brought to the table with his skill set this year. He was very good.
And flip him next year, maybe.
Yeah, right? It's kind of what the Habs did with Monahan, if you think about it. They had this
That was
great
good,
idea.
yeah.
We'll take the last year Monahan's deal. We'll eat half the money and
Yeah.
trade him at the deadline. Well, he was hurt. It didn't happen. So they re-upped him on a 1-year deal, and they made it happen this year.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
worked out.
Yeah. Okay. Question from Eric. When trading Hanifin/Tanev, should the Flames care about getting pieces back that can help this season to try and go get a wild card? I think they should care about it. I think if someone wants to offer you very, very high picks, you can care less about it. But if we've learned anything from Connie, he's kind of had a blend in the 2 big deals he's done, the Toffoli and the Lindholm. He's got a little bit for the future and a little bit for now. I would not be shocked if either or both of them look the same here. A little piece for now, a young toolsy player that maybe depth chart reasons isn't working where he's at, opportunity reasons, but then also a pick as well. Those are the types of deals that I think fit that tight wire we've tried to describe him walking, and being competitive, but also turning over this roster of younger players, getting younger assets.
It's true, but most contenders aren't going to give you a player that's going to help you too much, a roster player, at least unless they've somehow been squeezed off of their roster at the trade
there's
deadline.
2 ways
We'll
I look
see.
at it. It would be like a prospect that can't crack a lineup on a really deep contender, like a Turcotte type at LA or whatever. Or it's the Yurki Yokipaka, where it's just a bit of filler back the other way and it helps the money work.
Yeah, it'll probably be the latter.
Yeah,
more than a former. Even if it's a prospect, they're probably not going to be as good as Tanev or Hanifin, right? So,
well, I will say this: a Markstrom deal could have a significant
maybe
one of each.
Yeah.
Like if it was Holtz and a first, I feel like the Flames would say yes. I don't know that the Devils would offer that, but that's the type of package that you're like, we're having our cake and eating it too, right?
Absolutely, that would be ideal.
Okay. Jacko, anything else, buddy?
That's all we got.
Very good. Okay. Did we do a good afterburner today, Jack? I don't really know if we did. It was very panicked. We had to drive from Greta here. We had, Kent remotely. There were shots flying at Greta. I had to duck out of the way of, which always bothers me. I just feel a little off because I wasn't full Pinder tonight at the Greta bar. Passing grade?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. I think he's tired. He wants to get the hell out of here, Kent.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fine.
It is. Everyone, it's bedtime, I think, for us.
Thank you, friends. Battle of Alberta has got a little juice back tonight. I don't know that the last one had a lot. This one did.
Nope.
And there's a lot of things to be excited about for the Calgary Flames, whether you're the trade them all or push for the playoffs. The deadline's a dozen days away or so.
Yeah.
And on top of that, this team finds itself 3 points out of the playoffs and on a 3-game winning streak against legit cup contenders in Winnipeg, Boston, and Edmonton. Crazy sauce. They are now 8-4 against the top 6 teams in the league by points percentage, and 3-5 against the 5 worst teams in the league.
It's an enigma wrapped in a mystery.
Deep fried and crazy. It's a lot.
Yep.
Kent, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it. Jacko, appreciate you as well. Thanks to everyone that came out to Greta Bar. We had an absolute blast. Huge shout out to the staff at Greta. Casey and company, as always, know how to throw a party. And also to our friends at Closer to Home who came out and did the silent auction stuff. To Jazz, who did some social media stuff out there as well. RJ filmed some content. Boomer. And for myself and the rest of the gang, thanks for being there. It's pretty special when we get to be able to do these things. We don't take it for granted. Thanks for being a burner, or a barn animal, as Dean would call you. We'll talk again soon.